At the spring feast in the palace rose garden, the crown prince's betrothal badge went missing. Queen Isolde smiled.
That badge was meant for the crown prince's future consort. If one of our unmarried Omegas finds it, perhaps it will make a lovely match.
In my last life, I picked up the badge beside my foot and entered the crown prince's palace. But Crown Prince Darius Rivenhall, an alpha, treated me with cold disgust. More than once, he pinned me to the bed by my throat and demanded an answer.
Why was it you?
Later, I found the walls of his study covered with portraits of my older brother Leander. Only then did I learn Darius had loved him for years. At that spring feast, Darius had deliberately placed the badge beside Leander's seat. He had wanted to marry him. Reborn into that day, I faced Leander when he once again asked to trade seats with me. I shook my head. No, I like this seat. Leander froze.
Why?
Before I could answer, I heard the soft chime of jewels and gold chains. Queen Isolde had arrived. Darius walked at her side in black court dress. With his sharp brow, tall frame, and commanding presence, he drew every eye. I bowed with everyone else, lowering my head before the royal family. A pair of black boots embroidered in gold stopped half a step in front of me. The air suddenly felt colder. An icy gaze settled on me. I stared at the stone beneath my feet, my back rigid, while my thumb rubbed the inside of my wrist without thought. In my last life, when Darius learned Leander had married someone else, he flew into a rage. He tied me to the bed and tormented me for a full day and night. The ordeal left a scar on my wrist. Now the skin there was smooth and unmarked. Once the feast began, unmarried Omegas from noble houses recited sonnets, played the harp, and displayed illuminated paintings. The rose garden buzzed with excitement. Suddenly, Darius's attendant went pale and dropped to one knee.
Your Highness's betrothal badge is missing.
The guests erupted in alarm. Queen Isolde paused, then smiled. Her warm gaze swept over the Omegas present.
No harm done. The black silver badge was a gift from the abbot of the Holy Mountain Monastery. It is said to carry Darius's destined bond. If it was lost here, perhaps his mate has appeared. Every eligible guest here today is an unmarried Omega. If one of you finds it, that would make a fine story indeed.
The guests agreed, and laughter filled the garden. Several sharp-eyed noblewomen exchanged knowing smiles. Darius was old enough to marry. Queen Isolde had clearly arranged this feast in part to choose his consort. Several young Omegas lowered their heads and searched around their seats. In my last life, this was when I saw the badge beside my foot. The moment I picked it up, the Omega seated beside me pointed and cried out.
The younger son of House Alderwyn found it.
Every gaze turned toward me. Some looked surprised. Some assessed me. Others could not hide their disappointment. Queen Isolde beckoned me forward with a smile and studied me kindly.
Handsome, composed, and clearly blessed. Since the badge came to you, fate has spoken.
She asked.
Will you enter the Crown Prince's palace and become Darius's consort?
I bit my lip, my ears burning, and stole a quick glance at Darius. I will. My voice came out soft and quiet. Murmurs of admiration and amused delight rose around us. Queen Isolde laughed and immediately removed the pair of emerald bracelets from her wrists, offering them to me. My fingers trembled as I accepted them. That was why I missed Darius's sudden frown and the hand clenched white at his side. In this life, I kept my head down and pretended to search with everyone else. A startled cry rang out nearby.
What's this?
I turned and saw Leander bend down to pick up a black-silver badge engraved with the royal griffin.
The elder son of House Alderwyn found it.
Every eye turned toward us. Leander blushed, holding the badge without knowing what to do. Everything unfolded just as it had before. Queen Isolde called Leander forward, praised him warmly, and announced the betrothal on the spot. The only difference was that Leander had found the badge this time, and Darius's eyes overflowed with tenderness. The carriage wheels rumbled over the cobbled road. Inside, Leander still cradled the badge. His thumb moved over the cool black silver again and again. The blush had not left his cheeks, and his eyes shone.
Kalen,
He suddenly looked at me, faint regret hidden in his voice.
if I'd known, I should have insisted on trading seats with you. Then you would have found the badge, and you would be the crown prince's consort.
As he spoke, he quietly watched my reaction. I knew he feared I resented him, so I gave him a helpless smile. Why would you think that? I don't love the crown prince, and I don't want to enter his palace. When he still looked uncertain, I leaned closer and lowered my voice. I was worried I might find it. If I had, I might have tossed it straight into the rose garden fountain. Leander stared, then burst out laughing, his shoulders shaking. The last trace of distance between us vanished. He gave me a light shove.
Nonsense! That is His Highness's royal badge. It was blessed by the Holy Mountain Monastery. You can't just throw it away.
Exactly. I lowered my eyes. It's best that you found it. And the crown prince looked at you so tenderly. He clearly has feelings for you. His smile deepened, and shy color reached the corners of his eyes. The moment we entered the Alderwyn townhouse, our father, Cedric, and mother, Beatrice, were waiting in the great hall. When father heard Leander had been chosen as the crown prince's consort, he laughed with delight. Mother held Leander's hand and showered him with advice. Before half a day had passed, gifts from the crown prince's palace streamed into the royal inspector's townhouse. Walnut chests, fine wool blankets, South Sea pearls, Venetian-colored glass. The servants rushed back and forth until the entire house seemed to float in a haze of celebration. I stood beneath the gallery and watched the glittering gifts carried into Leander's rooms. A few days later, Mother sent for me in her sitting room. She sat in a cushioned chair with warm spiced tea, looking much gentler than days before.
Kalen, you are old enough for us to discuss your marriage.
She studied my face.
Is there an alpha you favor?
I lowered my head. No. Mother seemed to expect that answer. She took out a gold-edged marriage proposal.
Your grandfather's family sent this.
I took it and saw House Fenwick of Greyridge stamped across the cover.
House Fenwick is not among the kingdom's highest nobility, but they have managed northern trade routes, workshops, and travelling companies for generations. Their eldest son is Tobias Fenwick. He is 22, well educated at a church school, and now manages the family business. He is clever and capable.
Mother paused.
Your grandfather first meant to suggest this match for Leander, but then the crown prince chose him at the spring feast.
She asked.
Would you agree to a formal meeting with Tobias?
I looked down at the proposal in my hands. I could not remember whether this meeting had been proposed in my last life, but Leander had not married Tobias then, nor had he ever gone to Greyridge. Seeing me hesitate, Mother added,
The Fenwicks may live far from the capital, but they are honourable. Tobias has no lovers and has never signed a partner contract. The only drawback is that Greyridge lies far from the capital. If you move north, we might not see you for 3 or 5 years.
At those final words, my attention sharpened. Mother, I will meet him. My fingertips traced the raised gold design on the letter. Greyridge was hundreds of miles away. Mountains and long roads would separate me from the foul waters of the capital. Mother exhaled in relief and smiled.
Good. Since you agree, I will write back and arrange the meeting soon.
Mother took the meeting seriously. The next day, she hired the best tailor in the capital to make me a new formal suit. She also brought out an old ruby brooch and had a jeweler reset it in a fashionable design. Every day, she personally asked about the progress. The entire Alderwyn household rushed to prepare. A few days later, House Fenwick sent an apology. A dispute had broken out at one of their southern workshops. Tobias had to travel south to settle it, so our meeting was postponed for a month. The ebony boxes accompanying the letter did not contain ordinary gold or silver. They held rare and clever objects. There was a palm-sized clockwork clock and an imported tube of colored prisms. The finest gift was a miniature mechanical building set. I played with it for half the day, and could hardly put it down. I had not met Tobias yet, but his gift suited me perfectly. I found myself quietly looking forward to meeting him a month later. Meanwhile, Leander's royal wedding was set for 3 months later. Darius sent gifts more often, each more expensive than the last, until they nearly filled the Alderwyn storerooms. He often invited Leander out, sometimes on a hunt through the royal forest, and sometimes on a night voyage across the royal lake. Every time Leander returned, his eyes shone and he could not hide his smile. I thought this was for the best, but a few days later, Leander suddenly came to see me. He asked whether I'd saved a little boy during the royal winter hunt when I was 6. When Leander found me, I was playing in the courtyard with a wooden flying toy Tobias had sent. I was having so much fun that sweat covered my forehead. After receiving his apology gifts, I was delighted. I made him riding knee guards and a saddle pad and sent them south. Once Tobias received them, he sent even more gifts in return. Now I spent every day in the courtyard with my new toys and had no time to think about anything else. Leander's question caught me by surprise. I think so. Why? When I was 6, Father had planned to take Leander to the royal winter hunt. His name had already been given to the palace. Then Leander caught a bad cold, so I attended in his place. Father spent the day talking with court officials and slipping in the occasional compliment to King Othmar. I grew bored and slipped away when he was not looking. When I passed a frozen lake, I heard a faint cry for help. I pushed aside the dead grass and saw a little boy in a purple coat trapped in the freezing water. It nearly covered his mouth and nose. I tore off my heavy cloak and coat, jumped into the lake, and pulled him out. Before I left, I put my dry outer clothes back on. I warned the boy not to tell anyone I had saved him. If Father learned I had soaked my clothes, I was sure to be punished at home. Even now, I had never known who that boy was. Yet the day after the hunt, people from the palace began asking which young Omega had recently caught a bad cold. To avoid a lecture, I made sure no one knew I had fallen ill too. As the memory returned, I met Leander's gaze, and my heart sank. Seeing my face, Leander gave a bitter smile.
It really was you.
He said the past weeks had felt like a dream. Darius treated him so well that it frightened him. Darius told him not to be afraid. He said everything was repayment for Leander saving his life years ago. As Leander spoke, tears rolled down his face and struck the back of my hand, burning hot. He gripped my wrist until his knuckles turned white.
Kaelin, I'm sorry. The badge should have been yours. Darius should have been yours. But I love him.
His words dissolved into sobs. His shoulders shook, and tears ruined the careful makeup on his face. I watched him until the memories stirring inside me slowly went still. The suffocating hand around my throat and the agony of being tied to the bed now felt centuries away. I turned my hand and held his, gentle but firm. Leander, what nonsense are you saying? He looked up at me through his tears. When I was 6, I saved someone because I wanted to. I never expected repayment. I wiped the tears from his cheek. As for Darius, he and I were never meant to be. You don't owe me anything. I softened my voice. Mother has found a good match for me. House Fenwick of Greyridge. Tobias is honorable. We have exchanged letters, and we understand each other well. In a few months, I will probably marry him and move to Greyridge. Tobias and I had been writing more often, and a tender affection had begun to show between the lines. The thought brought sweetness to my heart. Leander froze.
You're leaving?
I nodded. The north is far away. I may not return to the capital for years, and I certainly won't see Darius. I looked into his eyes. Leander, let this mistake remain forever. I will tell no one, and you must never mention it again. Since you love Darius, become his consort and be happy. Sunlight filtered through the crabapple branches, scattering light and shadow across his face. The fear, guilt, and worry in his eyes broke apart, turning into a flood of tears. He threw himself into my arms again.
Kaelin. Kaelin.
He wept like a lost child. I patted his back and looked past his shaking shoulder at the wooden flying toy on the ground. The weather was beautiful on the day of my formal meeting with Tobias. I put on my new formal suit and ruby hair chain, then headed outside in high spirits. As soon as I stepped through the gate, I saw a black carriage below the stone steps. Darius stood beside it. He seemed to have just brought Leander home and was preparing to leave. I meant to step back and pretend I had not seen him, but our eyes met. Darius looked me over with contempt.
What is this? You saw Leander preparing to wear the royal wedding crown and cloak, and you couldn't bear it? So you dressed up and waited at the door to tempt me? You must have worked hard to learn my movements.
My fingers tightened around my cuff, but I stayed calm. Your Highness is mistaken. I am leaving for an appointment. I did not know you were here. An appointment? He laughed coldly and leaned close to my ear. His warm breath brushed my skin like a snake's tongue.
Don't think I can't tell. You came back too, didn't you?
He seized my wrist hard enough to crush the bone.
Behave. Don't play your filthy games around Leander. He is innocent. He cannot withstand your schemes.
So he had been reborn too. No wonder. I endured the pain and stepped back. Rest assured, Your Highness. From now on, we will stay out of each other's lives. He narrowed his eyes, searching my face for a lie. At last, he snorted.
Remember what you said today.